Hi everyone, thank you for joining the Frantic Seamstress for our sewing tutorial. Today we are making stretch leggings for Smartdoll and Dollfie Dream. Please remember to download your free pattern at www.franticseamstress.com. Once you've downloaded and cut out the pattern, you'll notice that the leggings are in two separate pieces. Join them together by matching the dotted lines. You will need to cut out two legging pieces, one regular and one mirrored, so that you have a left and right leg. You will also need to cut out one waistband piece, 1.75 inches wide and 7.75 inches long. Make sure that the stretch of your waistband piece goes along the length. Most spandex fabrics do not require serging, but if you choose to serge this project, you'll start by serging along the bottom hem of each pant leg piece. Turn the bottom edge of each pant leg up 1/2 of an inch and pin. Using a zigzag stitch on your machine, sew down the hem of each pant leg. Remember to use a back and forth stitch at the beginning and end of each seam to secure your stitches. Next, place the leggings right side up on your workspace. Fold them on top of each other so that they match. Line up the front and back seams and pin them securely. Sew the front and back seams using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. On my machine, I have selected the stretch stitch specifically for the spandex. If you do not have a stretch stitch setting, you can use a very small zigzag. Serge the front and back seams, taking your time to carefully go over the curves. Open the leggings and match up each leg piece along the inseam. Start by matching the front and back seams in the middle and push the seam allowances to opposite sides. Pin to secure. Next, match up the bottom of the pant leg and secure with a pin. Flatten out the rest of the leg and pin all the way down. If you are noticing that this seam isn't lining up quite right, one side of the pant might be slightly longer than the other. This can happen if the fabric you've chosen is very stretchy or very thick. You can fix this by giving the fabric a tug and easing the excess onto the other side. Try to do it as close as possible to the upper thigh area so that the rest of the leg stays smooth. Repeat these steps and finish pinning the other side. Using the 1/4 inch seam allowance and stretch stitch setting, start at the bottom of one of the leggings, sew all the way up the inseam, across the front and back seam, and all the way down the second leg. This should be one smooth, complete seam for the entire pair of pants. Don't forget to back and forth at the beginning and the end to secure your threads. Serge this seam in the same way, starting at the bottom of one leg, all the way across the pants, and ending at the bottom of the second leg. Remember not to cut the extra serging thread at the beginning and the end of the seam, as we will finish it later. Next, take your waistband piece and fold it in half. Line up the short edge and pin to secure. Sew this seam using 1/4 inch seam allowance. Press this seam open with your fingers and fold the waistband together lengthwise with the good side of the fabric facing out. Pin the waistband together all the way around. Next, using a very small zigzag stitch, sew around the bottom of the waistband all the way around. This can be a little tricky working around the pins. If you're finding it difficult, go ahead and put a light basting stitch by hand all the way around the edge of the waistband, do the zigzag stitch, and then remove the basting stitch. The seam on the waistband indicates the center back. Fold it in half at this point to find the center front and mark it with a pin. Place the waistband inside the legging, lining up the center back seams. Move to the front of the pant and match the center front seam to the center point of the waistband. Taking one side at a time, stretch the pant to fit the waistband and pin. Sew the waistband to the leggings using the 1/4 inch seam allowance. This can also be difficult to manage with the pins, so if you're having trouble, go ahead and hand baste the waistband to the leggings, stitch, and then remove the basting. Working in small sections, very carefully serge around the waistband. Remember not to trim the edge of the serging thread at the end of the seam, as we will finish it in the next step. Take a large-eyed needle, sometimes called a darning needle or a tapestry needle, and thread the loose end of the serging thread onto it. Use the needle to sew the end of the thread back through the seam. Trim off the excess thread. Repeat with the bottom of each leg. Turn your pants right side out and you're all done. Thanks so much for sewing with me. Please remember to share and subscribe.